this is Crissy from Crissy Crochet. For our today's project, we are going to learn how to crochet this beautiful bean stitch. Let's get started. I am going to be using I Love This Cotton, which you can purchase at Hobby Lobby. And this particular color is Amethyst. It's a very pretty color. And we're also going to be using an H needle, the crochet hook. You will need a needle with a large eye and a pair of scissors. While we're learning how to do this bean stitch, let's go ahead and do a project and make it into a small dishcloth. The first thing we need is a slip knot on our hook. So we're going to take our yarn, and this is the loose end, and we are going to make a circle. And then from behind, we're going to put the working yarn, and it looks kind of like a pretzel. We will take our hook, go into the middle, and pick up that center yarn, and then pull and tighten, and you have a slip knot. Okay, now let's chain 21 stitches. Now in this pattern, you can make it any size you want to, as long as you start with an odd number and add 2. So for our purposes today, to just make a small dishcloth, we will chain 19 and add 2, which would be, of course, 21. To make a chain stitch, you go under your yarn, pull through the first loop, so that's your first stitch. Okay? Then we just keep doing that. And this is called yarn over, pull through. That's 2. Yarn over, pull through. That's 3. Yarn over, pull through. And we keep chaining until we get to 21. So just keep doing that, and I'll be back, and we will start with a chain of 21. After you have your 21 chain stitches, we will start into the first stitch. You need to leave your last stitch a little bit looser, and you're going to skip the first 2 chains and go into the third one. You do not count the loop that's on the hook. So 1, 2, there's your third one. You'll go into that stitch, yarn over, and pull up on the yarn. And this is going to make you're going to want a little bit longer stitch. So you'll pull up on it and hold the base. Yarn over, go back into that same chain stitch, yarn over, and pull up. Yarn over, back into the same stitch, yarn over, and pull up. And you should have 2, there's 4, 6 loops on your hook. Now you're going to hold the base, you're going to yarn over, and you're going to go through all 6 of those loops. Then you're going to chain 1 to fasten the bean stitch. So when you look at it, there will be a little bit of a hump there. It's a real pretty stitch. The next stitch, you are going to skip 1 chain, and you're going to do the same thing as you did in that first one. You're going to first go into the stitch, yarn over, and pull up. And like I said, this needs to be a little bit long there. And then you yarn over, back into that same stitch, yarn over, and pull up. You need to do this one more time. Then we pull through all for 6 of the stitches. Chain 1 to fasten the stitch. Alright, then that's going to give you 2. And that's kind of what it's going to look like to start off. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing again. Leave this stitch loose. Skip the next stitch and go into this one here. So leave that loose and go into the stitch, yarn over and pull up. Yarn over, go in, yarn over, pull up. Okay, yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over and pull up. 6 stitches. We're going to go through all 6. Do a chain stitch to fasten. Let's do another one. We're going to skip 1. We're going to go into that stitch, yarn over and pull up. Okay. We're going to yarn over, go back into that stitch, yarn over, pull up. We're going to do that one more time. Yarn over, into the stitch, pull up. You should have the 6 loops and then pull through all 6 loops. Do a single chain to fasten it. Okay, and then this is kind of the way it's beginning to look. Those will kind of have a texture to the top of it. So now, if you will, continue until you get almost to the end, and I will be back. Now you're almost to the end of your chain, and we have a skip 1 stitch, a bean stitch here, skip 1, and then in the final stitch we put another bean stitch. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we go into the stitch after we skip 1, we yarn over and we pull up, leaving that fairly loose. And if you get a little hole that it looks like in your chain, that's okay, because that will even back out. Yarn over, go into that chain, yarn over, pull up. And then one more time. You'll yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up. Then we're going to go through all 6 of our loops. Make sure you chain 1 to fasten the bean stitch so it won't come loose. Then we have 1 to skip, and we will go directly into this stitch. Now remember, you do not yarn over before you go into the stitch. So if you get an extra stitch, that's probably what you're doing. You're adding 1. So do not yarn over as you go into the stitch. Just go directly into the stitch, then yarn over and pull up. Again, yarn over into that last stitch, yarn over, pull up. One more time, yarn over into the stitch and pull up. That will be our last one for this row. Do not forget to do your chain 1 to fasten it. Now we want to start our second row, and so all we have to do is chain 2, 1, 2. Then we turn our work. Okay. Now, if you pull your stitches a little bit, you're going to see there is a V to the left of the bean stitch. Now just kind of pull just a little bit. There'll be a little opening, and it's to the left side. See where that's at? Right here. Right into there. And that is where we're going to go. So it's real easy to find the stitch by pulling just a little bit. So we're just going to start our bean stitch. You go into that space, and again, before we start, leave that a little bit loose. Go into our stitch, pull up, yarn over, back into that stitch, into that little space, and you do your yarn over and pull up again one more time, and then you should have your 6. Pull through all 6 loops. Don't forget to do the chain 1. Then when we get ready to do the next one, we just pull that open a little bit. It's just to the left of the bean stitch. Go into that space and pull up, yarn over and pull up. Then do that again, yarn over through the space, yarn over and pull up. Yarn over into the space, yarn over and pull up. And you just always have to keep hold of the base of where you're working. Pull through all 6 stitches, then you will do that chain stitch. All right, let's do that again. See, it's very obvious where that's at if you'll pull it open, and then just it's the one, there's another one over here a little bit, but it's the one that's actually to the left of the bean stitch. All right, leave that loose, go through that into that space, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, back through the space, yarn over, pull up, yarn over through the space, yarn over and pull up, pull through all 6 loops, do your single or your chain stitch, and then we just keep going. We'll do one more. All right, go into that little space right there, in there, yarn over, pull up, yarn over into that space, yarn over, pull up, yarn over into the space, yarn over and pull up. Again, you have 6 loops and pull through all 6 and then chain 1. Okay, so look at what this is looking like. Isn't that pretty? That just makes such a pretty little stitch in my opinion. All right, you worked almost the end, and I will be back and show you how to work on the 3rd row. This is the way that your 2nd row is looking. Now we need to do a bean stitch here and then at the end. Let's go down into that little, it's like a little triangle space to the left of the bean stitch itself. Leave this loose, yarn over, come up, yarn over, go back down into that space, yarn over, come up, and you need to do that one more time. Then pull through all of the 6 loops. Don't forget to chain 1. Now at the end, if you look here, we have the bean stitch, and that's our chain 2. So that still makes basically the same looking little V. So that is where, right into that hole there that we had the chain 2, that we're going to put the last bean stitch. So leave that loose, go into that space, pull up after you yarn over, go back in, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, back in, and then pull up. That should give you the 6 loops on your hook. Pull through all 6 loops, chain 1, and don't forget the chain 1 to fasten your bean stitch. Again, we do the same thing. We chain 1, 2. we turn our work, we just flip it over, and as you pull that, it's very easy to see the little triangle areas beside the bean stitch to the left of it. We do the same thing. Right here, we go in, yarn over, pull up. Yarn over, back into that little space, yarn over, pull up. Yarn, go through that space, yarn over, pull up, go through all 6 stitches and do a chain stitch. Keep doing that, and I will meet you back after you do several rows. After we get several rows done, then we're going to want to measure. If we measure the inches that we had for our base of chain stitches, we had 6 inches. Now, let's make this dishcloth square. So we're going to measure, and right now we have about 5, or I do, and then so I need about another inch. Now, an easy way if you don't have a ruler to find out if you're close, all you have to do is fold this like that, and you're going to need to come up about another inch. And if you'll look here, there's about an inch here. So once we do a few more rows, then we'll have a 6 by 6 dishcloth. You continue until you get a 6 by 6, and I'll do the same and meet you back. Let's measure and see if we have 6 by 6 for our dishcloth. So 6 that way, 6 that way, and if we fold, as I showed you before, then it's even, and we know that it's a square. Okay, so now all we have to do is clip off our yarn, and before we do that, let's do 1 chain stitch there. Then leave just a little bit so that you can work the ends in. Then bring that up and out. Pull this tight against the corner. And then all we'll have to do is work in the ends. So to do that, we'll turn it over, and we'll use our needle with the big eye. Let's use our needle to work in the ends. So we thread our needle, and then we're just going to work back and forth on the back side in between, and we want to be careful to where we're staying in the middle of the work. So we'll just pull this in and fix a neat corner there, and go ahead and just kind of work in and out to hide your tail. Okay, then we'll work back. We'll leave there. Make sure we don't get it too tight in the corner. Okay. Then we're just going to work back and forth the other way. And you're kind of splitting the stitches so that it'll stay in there good. And since this is a washcloth, it will be used and rubbed quite a bit, so it would help to make sure that you get this in. And then for this one, let's do a third time. Go right back in. Just weave in and out. And pull that through. Okay. Then clip that off. And then you'll go ahead and you'll work in the tail on the other corner the same way, the one where we started. So if we turn it back over, we now have learned how to do the bean stitch, and now we have a nice little small dishcloth to use in our kitchen. I appreciate you watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and that you will enjoy your dishcloth. Please subscribe and like my video, and we will see you later.